Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm so glad you're here this Wednesday morning. We have a great show lined up as always. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. Now today it's going to be a replica. Last week or two has been the same thing. In fact, the lows this week has been 77 for like 5 days in a row. The low's going to be 77. High's going to be around 90, 89 to 90, and the water temperature is still around 82 degrees. I didn't show the river readings today. We're going to the river about the same as we were yesterday. I'll show the river readings again tomorrow, but not a lot of movement. Both rivers are low. Apalachicola is around 2.2, and the Chocolate Hatch is right below 4. So good shape on the rivers. One thing we want to talk about later, these low rivers, not just here, but also over in Swanee River. Been one of the regions they've talked about the sturgeon being so active, and we've had a fatality. We'll talk about that later on, but those sturgeon jumping can be really dangerous. They jump a lot more, according to scientists, when the river's low. For some reason, that just stimulates them to do a lot more jumping. So just be aware of that. Okay, now let's take a look at our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. We're in neap tides today and tomorrow. But now look, this weekend you see on the chart, we're going to have some good tides this weekend. High tide is this morning 5:45 and low 8:07. We only got about a 1.1 foot range on those tides today. A marine forecast becoming south-southwest at about 5 to 10. I'm going to say this almost every day. Just be aware those afternoon and early morning thunderstorms popping up on you. They come up really fast. So we're going to talk about that later on too, about the severity of the weather we've had recently. All right, let's take this break. We'll be right back with our guest. Now, welcome back and welcome, Captain Rick Corley.
Good morning.
Always fun to have Rick on here because we talk so much about between. A lot of times we don't really have a lot of stuff planned because we just start talking and everything just pops up. But you just mentioned a phrase and it makes a lot of sense. I was telling you about, we're talking about the weather and telling you about Sunday was a week ago. We were on a Seminole wind. We're a good group of guys ready to go fishing at 5 o'clock that morning. And I've told the folks, a long story short, we ended up not going because of the weather.
Yeah, you looked at the radar and it was just covered up.
It was covered up, yeah. And you mentioned this phrase.
Gotta go itis.
Gotta go itis.
And it'll get you hurt because, I fly, and I used to be chief flight instructor at Soil Aviation and Old Reba Air Service years ago. And doctors quite often will buy a Bonanza. Nice airplane, very fast, very capable. Mm-hmm. But it is a light airplane, and you don't fly through thunderstorms. Well, they go on vacation, they start to come back, and they got patients waiting on. We used to call it gotta go itis, killed the doctor, because he'd gotten that airplane, flew into weather that he knew better than to fly in, trying to get back.
And that has happened here locally.
Yes, it has. Yeah. And you can do the same thing on a boat. I got to go fishing because I only got a certain amount of time. The season's open only so long, and I'm down here, and we got to go. Well, you looked at the radar, and it was bright orange and bright red, and no.
And really, then it affects younger men more than it affects older men because as you get older and more mature, you see it happen where that gotta go itis, where people go and get in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't have gotta go itis, but I was already out there, and I got caught in that storm up there off of Nova Scotia in '91.
The perfect storm. Did you really?
Yeah. And we were 85-foot seas for about 70 hours, and I had to divert and go into St. John's, Newfoundland to get out of it.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, and I saw it coming, but there wasn't nothing we could do except what we did to get out of it. But
well, those seas were remarkable. We talked about. I showed that movie.
It's like driving off Hathaway Bridge every time.
Oh man, that had to have been something else.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Now again, still talking about nature and the different things happening. On the other hand, sometimes we'll go there with really nice weather and the sun just beating down on us.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times I talk to young people about it all the time about protection and putting on shirts.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
The shirt you're wearing is a 50 UPF. That's what I wear is in khaki. There's lots of sporting good places that sell them.
Yeah.
And they're great. And they, let me tell you, You don't want one of these. I had
So,
2
well,
surgeries.
you've had
and
experience.
43 radiation treatments, and I don't recommend it for
How many
nothing.
radiation treatments have you?
43.
43.
And I'm here to tell you, it will kick your tail.
Yeah.
And they're killing the cancer in you, and you just got to outlast the cancer.
Yeah, and a lot of times it happens at a younger age, and it doesn't affect you till later on.
That's correct. Mine probably was from something in my youth up through into my 20s, but I got it when I was 62. You know, and I've managed to last 8 more years now, coming up on 9.
Well,
and
that's really remarkable, really good.
In fact, we got a new dermatology here in town, and the fellow that is the primary physician out of Tallahassee is one of the top specialists in melanoma cancer in the country, and he's got a new young doctor here. I was their first patient.
Really?
Yeah, here. It's called Dermatology Southeast at 425 West 19th Street. It's Oak Medical Center. They're going to have the grand opening in August. I'm going to try to get Dr. Sunriser to come on here and talk to you about how to prevent melanoma and you know, guard against some of that, especially in the younger ages.
And what I like to you know, tape the show. We always do, but make a copy of it to show my classes too.
Sure.
It's so important.
Absolutely.
So that's good. And but anything, the protection though, especially, you know, we always talk about between 10 and 2. I like to extend it a lot of times between 9 and 3.
A lot of people don't wear these. This palm leaf hat from Box Top Hats.
Box Top Hats.
Absolutely.
These hats
they're
real popular now.
Yep.
And they're so practical.
Well,
is it comfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got 2 of them. I bought this one, liked it so well. I said, well, it'll wear out. And I said, if I swap them out from time to time, they last longer.
There you go.
And so you know, us geniuses have small heads. Mine's 6 3/4, so I had a special order.
Yeah. And you know, talking about that midday sun, and a lot of times like this Saturday, I'm going fishing, and we're going to be flat out fishing between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. You can't avoid it. So a lot of times you can avoid being on the beach, and you know, but if you're on an offshore trip or something, and I know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm going to have a big old broad hat. I'm going to have shirts on and everything between 10 and 2. So that's when it's more, this time of year especially, July and August, it's really.
I'm not looking forward to the next 6 weeks, and that's a busy time. My busiest time is from March 1st to the end of August, and then I slow down in September some. In other words, we average about 20 surveys a month for that 6 months, and then from September to the end of February, we'll do about 14 a month. But we do about 200 to 204 boats a year that way.
And a lot cooler then too.
Oh yeah, I love October. That's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, that is a great time.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to come back and talk about some boats in a second, so we'll be right back. Welcome back to Captain Rick Corley, who's had a lot of hours here along the Panhandle waterways and all, and I like to learn from people like this, even though you know, we think we know everything. That's when you never know everything.
No, I take notes.
You had a good piece of advice too. And a lot of times a couple goes out and a wife a lot of times just wants to ride out and read a book and all. But it's very important. And most of the guys I know, their wives can do this. And
that's fine. But the thing about it is, well, I talk to a lot of people that couples are buying a boat. Okay, and the first thing I ask is, does she know how to run a boat? And they said, well, no. I run the boat. I said, well, you need to have her at least do like we did in aviation. We used to have what they call a pitch hitter course. And we would go to Aircraft Owner and Pilot Association would sponsor them. And we'd go, flight instructors like myself would go to them and teach the wives how to at least get the airplane on the ground. In other words, we didn't teach them a lot of finesse. Just get it on the ground, shut it down, and you've survived if something happens to the hubby. Well, same thing with boats. If you're out there and something happens to you, that's a heck of a time to have to learn how to run the boat because you didn't know. Now you're already under one stress and you're adding more stress. That's a recipe for disaster. Don't dare try to teach your wife how to run the boat because you want to stay married. Get somebody else to do it that knows what they're doing. But I used to do it. I'd do a couple hours on a Saturday, a couple hours on a Sunday, and get her to where she can come alongside the dock, stop the boat, catch a line. Because if something happens to you and she's got to do that, she's not under the stress of having to learn that. She knows how to do that. So she goes into motion, brings you home, probably save your life too.
Yeah, and save your marriage. And it's different circumstances. You reminded me of when Gail and I first married. My first boat was a small little creek boat, like a Kennedy craft type boat. And
what we used to call a batteau.
She learned how to operate the motor real quick, because here's what happened. I was one of these guys that I would take the little fishing river, and get up in those sloughs, and I would want to get a little fishing spot there. And a lot of times, she's in the bow and I'm in the stern, and a lot of times we'll get up there close and there's a big old water moccasin and all. She'd be screaming. So she learned to do the boat, and I got up there. And so we've had this relationship. She's like, whatever boat we've ever had, she can run it well. But it started from, and that's a true story.
You remind me of a story that I had when I was running tugboats. We went to push in on the river over on the Tom Bigby Warrior. Mm-hmm. And the deck cam was up there, and it was late at night, so I had the searchlight on where he could see what he was doing. And he said, well, we can push in right here. There's a line laying on the bank. Mm-hmm. And, the lines we use are almost 2 inches in diameter. And he started reaching. I noticed him step back. He said, let's move up the river a little bit, Captain. I said, what's the matter? That line's not any good. He said, no, that wasn't a line. It was a big old moccasin. And he said, I don't think I want to grab that.
And that can scare you. And even inshore fishing now with a boat and all, I like to fish off the bow like everybody else, and without a trolling motor or something, and so she can run it. But I'm serious. Have your spouse or someone with you, your oldest child, make sure they can run the boat. That's great advice. It really is.
The other thing is, my dad put me on a 108-foot yard tug when I was 10 years old. I had to stand on one of these milk stools like we got over here in the studio, and stood on the dock with a megaphone telling me what to do to dock the boat. Now, later on, I thought about that. It was an old direct reversible. You had to crank it up, going the direction you wanted. When you shut it down, that was neutral. When you shift the gear back to the other way, the cam flipped over so the engine run the other way. Yeah. Well, if that thing stopped on top dead center, you ain't got no reverse, because you hit start and nothing happens. And you got a pip whistle, and you go over and beep, beep. That lets the engineer know, take the pry bar, put it in teeth on the flywheel, move it just a skosh. And then he'll pip back, and you hit the button because he's moved it off that dead center. Well, I didn't realize he had Henry down there, his chief engineer, and Henry would have done it whether I did or not. But I'm thinking, I'm on a 300-ton black iron hull old tugboat with 800 horsepower, coming at an old wooden dock, and you standing on it, telling me what to do to dock. Later on, I said, you crazy.
Well, he really had a lot of wisdom in that. Yep.
Yeah, but that's how I learned. And the thing is, once I learned the proper way to do it, I was a lot better driver in a car. When I got into aviation, I was better because I had already started the fundamentals of doing it safe. And that's a teaching tool.
And I think we all can flash back. I can remember as a little kid on the O'Clockton River, my dad for the first time let my brother and I handle that boat going down the river. I just never will forget that. I can remember doing it with my two children, and the look they had on their face, and now I've done it with my grandchildren.
My older brother and one of his friends, Charles Johnson, when they were both 14 years old, Dad built a Juniper skiff in the backyard up there in Phoenix City, Alabama. They put a 12.5 horsepower Wizard motor on the back of it. He gave them a Marlin Model 3922 with 2 boxes of ammunition, food, and everything. Got the Lions Club to sponsor it. Those two 14-year-olds left Columbus, Georgia, came all the way down the Chattahoochee and Apalachicola River, came to Panama City, and docked right at our place. And every time they would stop in a town like Bluntstown or Fort Gaines, the local Lions Club would come down and make sure they had everything they needed. And there were people watching them all the way down. But today, somebody said, that's child endangerment.
That's right.
I'm thinking,
they get too far away from home.
What a great way to learn.
True. That's true.
And they did. And they carried extra shear pins, and Dad had taught them how to, put a new shear pin if they hit something and sheared the shear pin on the propeller.
I don't know. I don't hear much about shear pins. That used to be a big deal. If you didn't have shear pin,
but you got hubs now that will spin.
That's a big deal. Speaking of boats, boat values, how are they looking?
They're still low. If you're buying used, you still got some good buys out there. They're running about 80% of the asking price as a general rule. That's not a set rule, but as a general rule, that's they're down. If you're looking for a boat now's the time to buy. If you can afford to own a boat, remember you got to buy that boat back from yourself every 10 years. In maintenance.
Explain that to what you're talking about.
Well, let's say you got let's just use an easy number, $100,000 boat.
That's a little bit out of my price range.
Well,
go ahead.
okay. Well, let's change that again. Let's say $25,000.
There you go.
All right, $25,000 boat. You're gonna spend about $2,000 to $2,500 a year maintaining that boat, keeping it up, and doing the things that keeps it from devaluing rapidly. Okay.
Okay.
If you've got a used boat, you take care of it. It'll drop right now somewhere between 2 and 3% a year
Okay.
in value. But if you spend that money to maintain, you can slow that down some even there. The cheapest money you can spend is preventive maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go till it breaks and then fix it. If you see it's going wrong, go ahead and fix it. You'll save money in the long run.
And that again, that's great advice on those boats and all, because so many people. I recently had a friend from up in Eufaula, Alabama, came down, and they were going to go out, and their boat broke down on them. Once they got out, it broke down. Had to get towed in.
I see that a lot because well, I got the boat, Well, did you crank it up? Did you run it with the muffs on it beforehand? Do you know the battery's charged? Do you know the running lights work, the horn work? Go through the checklist on that thing before you ever. It's nothing more disheartening to get down there and put it in the water. Oh, the battery's dead.
Oh yeah, I know. That happens. All right, we're gonna take a final break and be right back. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us this morning. Let's take a look at our fishing game forecast today, brought to us by Mark Coward, Counts Realty, number 832-6000. And we're looking at our times, two good times, excellent times this morning. We're looking at 6:36 to 8:36, and this afternoon from 5:02 to 7:02. That's a little bit off there. It should be 5:02 to 7:02 this afternoon. I changed it back to the wrong way. Okay, so that's a 2-hour block, but early morning and late afternoon is going to be excellent. You don't have to be like 02. You can be 04. Still catch the fish. Okay, we had a lot more stuff to talk about. We were talking about. You said we were talking about storms and all earlier and all. And of course, the big storms, of course, the hurricanes and all we have. And you said you have an uneasy feeling this year.
Yeah, we got real high temperatures in the water out there in the Gulf, and that's one reason. If we usually have a hurricane, it's like Opal was in October, or Flossie back in '61 was in late September, early October. Mm-hmm. They seem to be that time period because then the Gulf has gotten really warm, and that warm water. It's a steam engine, and it's picking that humidity and moisture up out of that water, and that's what generates them. And a lot of times where we get them is they come across the Yucatan, and they get into the Bay of Campeche and strengthen, and then instead of going, they start that Coriolis turn and curve, and that puts them curving right back to us.
Yeah.
Just like Opal did. It came right out of the Bay of Campeche, and if we hadn't had two cool fronts come in and suck that cool air in the back of it, it would have been a Category 5 hitting here.
Yeah.
It was a strong 2, maybe a weak 3.
Yeah.
And we were lucky.
And like I say, you went to bed, and of course I was out of town, but it's like a little boy called Wolf, and we get lulled to sleep. It is so easy because we see so much on TV about the storms and all. Oh, it's not going to hit here. And that was 20 years ago this year, 20 years ago in October. Yep. So I'm sure you'll see some stuff on the news.
Yeah, I got up at 5:30 just to double check, and when I got up at 5:30, I saw that it had moved drastically. It moved off and strengthened overnight coming across the Gulf. I says, hey guys, get up, get your cars. We already had them packed. I said, we're out of here because I said, they're going to give a warning here shortly, and we got to beat the crowd. And we did. We left. Yeah. Well, at 7 o'clock, they had told them it was going to be here. Mm-hmm. And we listened on the radio about all the traffic jams and everything else, but we were already nearly to Graceful by the time.
Yeah, so you did beat the traffic, and you start thinking how many more people we've had living here now than we did 20 years ago.
Oh,
so, or just a word, once you see, if you see any kind of tract and all, and I know that they'll speculate a lot, a storm can be serious.
Absolutely. If it's a Category 1, and you know it's going to stay there, where I'm at in my house, I'm way above sea level, I'm going to stay. Yeah. If it's Category 2, it depends on where it is. If it's going in east of us and we'll be on the back side of the rotation, I'm staying. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be west of us where we'll be on the front side of the rotation, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
and Category 3, anywhere close to me, I'm inland at least 50 miles.
But it just have you plan way ahead. Know right now, know today what you're going to be doing with your boats, all your stuff outdoors, especially we're talking about doing your boat and all. If you have it on a trailer,
also make sure your insurance policy's paid up. And,
That's true.
and I don't have anything in my house or that I own that is worth me or my kids or my wife. No.
And trailer your boats too. You're going to be getting that wind coming off the Gulf. If you can sort of shelter that boat, if you're trailering it, if you can shelter it behind a good building or something.
Yeah. Well, when I had my boat, I used to go up there behind the Armory at Graceville, and I'd park right behind the Armory, and then stay in the Armory because that old Armory was for armored vehicles. And they know some of the drivers weren't that good, so it was a pretty substantial building.
strong.
So if they run into it with a tank, it didn't knock it down. So it was a good place to go for storm shelter.
And if you're going to keep it on the water, of course, you see what old timers do. They're going to hit these little bayous and areas.
They'll go up there in Fannin Bayou and the northern end of the bay.
Yeah, I see them up there. Also on East Bay,
Intercoastal Waterway,
Intercoastal Waterway, and all Pearl Bayou.
Weetapo Creek.
Weetapo Creek and all. And they've known over the years and all those places go. Now, of course, some people can, if you get out in time, people like Mike Miller, they can probably lift them out if they got room and time.
And if you can do that, and a lot of insurance companies, Boat US for one, I think Progressive does it, and I'm not sure, but I think Geico may. But you can check with your insurance company. Some of them will pay the haul-out fees or half the fees to get you to haul them out because they ride better up there blocked up. Even if they fall over, you might do a little damage, but that's repairable. But if you get a boat flooded with salt water, the wiring cost to rewire that boat may totally die. I'm serious. That and the engine and everything else.
So be aware of all this, and we just tell you this every year. I know we talk about storms and all, but sooner or later we're going to have one hit us.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong, but I got an uneasy feeling because of the water temperatures. I don't. I'm not a weatherman, but I've watched the weather for years, and I had to between flying and between being a ship's captain and towboater and so on. And I respect the weather, and I respect the signs that I see, and I'm a little uneasy about this season myself.
Hopefully not. But
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong.
Boy Scout motto: always be prepared.
Yep.
I got to get out of here, Rick. Thank you, buddy.
Yep.
All right, listen, folks, thank you all so much for watching our show today. We appreciate your viewership. You do something good for your fellow man. Have a great day, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.